My name is Regina. At 25 years old, I learned a brutal lesson. A house isn't built of bricks and mortar, it's built of permission. And the very second my mother's heart stopped beating, my father revoked mine. I was still wearing the black wool dress from her funeral. I could still feel the chill of the cemetery in my bones when he called me into his study. He didn't offer a hug. He didn't offer a chair. He didn't even look up from his desk. He just slid a single cold sheet of paper across the mahogany and said 5 words that ended my childhood. Find somewhere else to die. He claimed the house. He claimed the $33 million estate. He thought that because Mom was gone, her shield over me had vanished with her. He treated me like a squatter in my own life, an unwanted line item on a balance sheet. What he didn't realize, what his greed blinded him from checking, was that my mother knew him better than he knew himself. She didn't just leave a will, she left a tactical trap, and he had just stepped right onto the pressure plate. Before I show you the exact moment his face turned the color of ash in that Layer S office, please subscribe if you believe that greed should never, ever come before family. The house I grew up in, the place where I learned to walk, and where Mom taught me to paint, transformed overnight. It became a museum where I was no longer allowed to touch the exhibits. My father, Arthur, a man I had spent 2 decades respecting, became a stranger. The mask of the devoted husband didn't just slip, it shattered. I remember walking into the kitchen the next morning. The smell of her favorite Earl Grey tea was still faint in the air. I reached for a mug, and my father's hand slammed the cabinet shut. That's Waterford crystal, Regina. Pack your cheap college dishes and leave the heirlooms to someone who appreciates their value, he said. His voice was clinical, like a CEO liquidating a failing branch. I spent that afternoon packing my mother's sweaters into cardboard boxes. They still smelled like her lavender and expensive fabric softener. I was sobbing so hard I could barely see the tape, but he just stood in the doorway, checking his watch. Your mother was soft, Regina, he told me, leaning against the doorframe as if you were watching a maid clean a room. She didn't understand that this level of wealth requires a firm hand. You're a liability, a drain on the estate. You an expense I'm no longer willing to carry now that I'm the sole executor. I spent 3 nights on a friend's lumpy couch, staring at the ceiling fan, wondering how 25 years of I love you could be deleted in 24 hours of paperwork. I felt erased. I felt small. I felt like a mistake. Then, on the 4th morning, the phone rang. It was Mr. Sterling, my mother's attorney for 30 years. His voice wasn't somber like the others. It was sharp. It was curious. He asked me one question that shifted the earth beneath my feet. Regina, did your father show you the conduct clause in the final amendment? I didn't even know there was an amendment. I walked into that law office feeling like a ghost. But I left my tears at the door. My father was already there, draped in an Italian suit, sitting in the high-backed leather chair as if he already owned the firm. He didn't even glance my way when I sat down. Let's get this over with, Sterling, my father snapped, tapping his gold watch. I've already started the preliminary paperwork to list the estate. I want the house on the market by Monday, and the primary funds transferred to my private holdings by Friday. My daughter is settled elsewhere. Mr. Sterling didn't move. He didn't open the folder. He just adjusted his glasses and looked at my father with a look of pure professional pity. Arthur, Sterling said, his voice dropping into a low, dangerous register. I'm afraid you've made a catastrophic mathematical error. Not in the numbers, but in the people. My father scoffed. I'm the husband, the survivor. It's all mine. Sterling turned the document toward me first. My eyes scanned the legal jargon, blurring at first, and then everything snapped into focus. My mother hadn't just left me an inheritance. She had choreographed this entire confrontation from beyond the grave. The will stated that the $33 million and the mansion were held in a conditional perpetual trust. My father was named the temporary caretaker, strictly on the condition that I resided in the home and was treated with familial dignity and financial support. Then I saw it. The kill switch clause underlined in bold, scarlet ink. Any attempt by the caretaker to evict, intimidate, or financially abandon the primary beneficiary, Regina, results in the immediate, irrevocable, and total forfeiture of Arthur's access to all estate assets. Upon such violation, the caretaker shall be granted 48 hours to vacate the premises with nothing but his personal effects. Silence in that office was heavy enough to crush a person. You could hear the faint ticking of a clock on the wall, each second sounding like a hammer blow to my father's future. My father's hand started to tremble so violently he had to drop his pen. That's not legal. It's a trick. She was medicated. She wouldn't do that to me. I'm her husband. You were her husband, Arthur, Sterling replied, his voice as cold as a mountain stream. But you were Regina's father, and according to the sworn affidavit, Regina filed this morning complete with the security footage of you barring her from the kitchen, and the audio recording of you telling her to find somewhere else to die. You have effectively fired yourself from this family. I watched the man shrink. It was the most surreal thing I've ever seen. The man who had loomed over me like a giant just days ago now looked like a panicked small child. He turned to me, his eyes wide and pleading, reaching for my hand. Regina, honey, I was just stressed. I was grieving. You know I didn't mean it. We can go home right now. We can forget all of this. I pulled my hand back. I felt a surge of strength I didn't know I possessed. You told me Mom wasn't here to protect me anymore, I said, my voice steady and crystalline. But look around this room, Dad. She's in the ink on this page. She's in the recording on my phone. She's in every corner of the house you tried to steal. You thought she was soft because she was kind. No. She was smart. She knew you'd choose the money over me the moment she was gone. So she made sure that if you lost your heart, you lost your wallet too. I didn't kick him out in 24 hours. I'm not like him. I gave him the full 48. I stood on that same porch where I had once stood with my 2 suitcases in the rain. This time, the sun was out. I watched him load the trunk of a car he no longer owned with suits he could no longer afford to dry clean. We didn't have a big cinematic reconciliation. There were no tears of regret from him, only tears of anger that he'd been caught. In real life, sometimes the villain doesn't learn a lesson. They just lose their power. Today, the house is quiet, but it's a peaceful quiet. It's no longer a museum or a cage. It's mine. I've converted my father's old study into an office for a foundation I started. We provide legal aid and emergency housing for young women facing financial displacement or toxic family evictions. Because my mother taught me one final, eternal lesson. Protection isn't just about the walls of a house. It's about making sure that the people you love are never, ever truly defenseless. If you think my mom was a genius for that kill switch, drop a protected in the comments. If you've ever had a family member try to treat you like a business transaction, I want to hear your story below. I'm Regina, and for the first time in my life, I am truly home.